The Man Whore Podcast is sponsored by HotMovies.com. Try out some ethical paid-for porn for free with none of those hidden fees or secret recurring subscriptions when you sign up at HotMovies.com/bonus and use the promo code MANWHORE. Bipolar mind, bipolar powers. After a kind encounter breaks the shell of his anxiety and depression, college senior Tristan Myriad is struck by lightning and granted an ancient power. Homework becomes an afterthought as explosive abilities add new weight to a lifelong battle with his own mind. With his roommate Bryce at his side, he hones his abilities and searches for their origins, chasing the coattails of the strange singer Decibel. He will learn the hard way that mood swings don't have schedules, and you can't resolve what's burnt and buried. Prism Revelation is now on sale through the Ex Libris store, as well as Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. But before you go out to buy this book for yourself or a loved one this holiday season, there is something I want you to know. On the surface, yes, Prism is a series about a college kid with superhuman abilities. Heard it before, right? But underneath is a struggle that is ignored far too often. Tristan Myriad is not just a college student. He is a man who has battled his whole life against bipolar disorder and anxiety. He is a man who has fought every day to keep himself together with or without medication, trying to overcome the war that consumed his mother. In a world of troubled but generally neurotypical heroes, Tristan Myriad shows that you can save the world, or at least your town, even with a diagnosis. Check out Prism Revelation on Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, Ex Libris, or at SigmaVerse.com. Now let's get to the show.
Welcome to the Man Whore Podcast.
That's not what you brought me here for.
Why would I ever let a straight white man do something freely?
Yeah, fuck you. That's not the game we play anymore.
It's 2018.
Yeah.
Like, no, you
Trump's president. You're all under arrest.
I think that's really more of a 2016 way of thinking, because in 2018 you could be like, it's 2018, and we're like, yeah, look who's in charge.
Right.
2016 is the great time to pull the year out on us. 2018,
yeah,
not so much.
I mean, look, not to take a serious turn right away. But you know, fuck your energy. I always hated that. It's 2016. You're not allowed to think or talk or do it. It's like, it's such an ahistorical way of looking at things. Like, fuck you and your dumb ideas about this inevitable progressive march. Like, we can descend into fascism at any moment. Like, the Weimar Republic preceded Nazi Germany,
I'm
right?
just gonna write
like,
down Weimar Republic, wherever the fuck that is.
it's cabaret. Think cabaret. Think like LGBTQ, trans, cross-dressing performers having like the time of their lives before Hitler was like, kill the Jews and also the gays. Like, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna find a place to put that.
Okay.
Because I hit record, be like, I'm gonna put it somewhere. We'll figure it out. That'll be useful. Let me get a quick. What's up to all the porn professors, slutty scholars, and horror historians? This is Billy Presida, and you're listening to the Man Whore Podcast. What's up, everyone? How you doing? Welcome to my show, the Man Whore Podcast, where I typically talk to women I've hooked up with about sex, dating, and why we didn't work out.
We have never had sex.
We never have.
We will never have sex.
You are technically
I am not attracted to
you. Oh, ouch. That felt unnecessary. That went a step
I'd let the record reflect.
Yeah, sure. You know, no thank you. Also, would have been fine.
Fine.
Also, when propositioned.
All right, whatever. You can't afford me.
No, that's definitely true. One day. No,
Probably not.
You're already hearing the voice of my co-host for this intro, Kaytlin Bailey.
Who waits for no intro?
Self-proclaimed mouthy whore.
Yeah.
Thank you. We just finished recording a wonderful bonus episode that you're going to hear that came out last week. For all my $10 and up patrons. So if you want access to that, all you got to go is pledge on Patreon, and you get access to that as well as 100 other bonus episodes.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it really was. We talked about the state of sex work and stuff like that. We're going to discuss a little bit later. But first, I want to remind y'all, we don't have show dates, but today is the last day for you to receive a limited edition hand-drawn sticker drawn up by none other than Rosa Escandone, friend of the pod. That's going to be available to all my $2 and up members on Patreon. I'm going to mail those out December 19th, which is today. So if you're not pledged today, you don't get them. I'm not selling them. You never get access to them. So you want to head on over to patreon.com/manwhorepodcast because I'm making a list. I'm checking it twice, and I'm mailing that shit out. No stamps.com ad here.
Okay.
Yeah. So Kaytlin, we were
like, oh, you're on top of your shit. I haven't mailed my Patreon things. It's whatever. It doesn't matter. I also love my Patreon supporters. I don't know any of their names. I've never fulfilled any of my promises. We do bonus episodes sometimes. It's often me just reading from primary source material.
It's great. That's great sell. It's great.
Yeah. Become a Patreon member. Why? I don't know. It's
that's a good, not the best start.
I don't understand how things work.
We'll talk. Well, but we just did a really great show that we discussed the state of sex work, which I had already thought we were going to talk about that when I first hit you up, and then only recently my Instagram went down. So obviously now I am upset. About censorship.
Yeah. Welcome to the dystopian future.
Yeah.
You're a sex educator. That makes you a whore too, according to these puritanical bastards always.
Yeah. Well, since I reached out to you, there was the community standards change on Facebook.
Yep. Instagram.
The Instagram, Facebook's now coming out with that. Tumblr porn came down.
First they came for Backpage, and not enough people said shit about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a vote in Congress. We had multiple votes. There's a House vote,
it's
a Senate
the
vote.
Only bipartisan piece of legislation that this clown car has been able to pass has been a dumb law targeting whores.
And don't you think that's an interesting, a false thought people have is like, well, the conservative. No. When it comes to sex workers, there's no political.
The censorious
ally.
liberals have been I say this line a lot, and so fans of mine are probably tired of hearing it, but Sesta Fosta bill combines the conservative fetish for punishing sexualness with the liberal instinct to quote unquote help a population of people they can't be bothered to understand, and it's all a nightmare.
Yeah, we got. What was kind of nice was this year there were a couple politicians who not just when asked the question, but in their platform on the website, where they say, "Here's my shit."
Yes, sex worker rights is starting to jump into the mainstream. The Rolling Stones wrote a great piece about that. New York Times covered the untimely and tragic death of Yang Song. We're starting to see more mainstream press, and there's starting to be real political activism, which is why I'm starting a new job as the director of communications for Decriminalize Sex Work. So check that out. So you might my first TV credit might be yelling at Laura Ingraham, telling her to call me a whore if she wants to, just stop putting us in jail.
Yeah. And we talked about this on the bonus ep, but just the concept of that, where this all comes from, when people stuff like these Instagram standards that are now going to start affecting normal people, where, whores have been just
we've been people this whole time, you monster.
Oh, you mean, sorry.
Yeah, those people. Fuck you, racist.
Look, I've been paid for some.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Get under this big red umbrella.
I tried to. I was up at was it technically called International Sex Worker Day, or was it?
Yeah.
So it was July, June 2nd or something,
2nd.
right?
Do you know what that celebrates? Pop quiz.
Sex worker.
Fuck you.
No.
So June 2nd, 1975, 200 street-based sex workers in Lyon, France, occupied a Catholic church to protest police brutality and new regulations that were making it harder for them to work, and also not going after serial killers, because time is a flat circle. So it made huge international news, and it launched what we now call today the International Sex Worker Rights Movement, essentially.
But just the idea that Sesta Fosta came and no one said anything, and then they're coming for the sex stalkers.
No one said anything.
Sorry.
The sex worker rights movement screamed bloody fucking murder, and just like always, we were right about everything, you dumb cunts.
And y'all will be written out of the
history of this movement
when we correct,
for sure.
When we write the chapter in the history book of how someone saved internet censorship,
it'll probably be a white dude. It's probably going to be you.
Oh God! Oh no! I hope not.
Stab you to death in the dark.
So yeah, but what is the state of sex? I would say one of the things I'm curious about that we didn't get to was
always innovating.
Yeah. Well, what? Speaking of the innovation, what do you think is the biggest roadblock for someone trying to get into sex work right now? No previous fan base. no previous clientele, post Sesta Fosta wants to start. You're making a face of like, why would someone do that?
No, I mean, like, yeah. I mean, besides the usual like criminalization and stigma, when I started sex work in 2004, I found on the World Wide Web a message board with like an FAQ section that helped me understand safety precautions and protocols and like what was expected of me and what was expected of my clients, and gave me a good framework to advocate for myself. Like, yes, you must show me your ID. Yes, you must wear a condom. Yes, you must have references. Yes, you must be on time. You know, basic things. And now I don't know how somebody would find that. So I think that one of the things about the amateurization of sex work that we've seen with like sugar babies and seeking arrangements, and it's like young girls misunderstanding their value on the open market and confusing a $500 bottle of wine with $500 in cash. And you can't pay your rent with wine that you drank. That's an experience for him. You become sort of like an accessory in his fantasy night, but having access to nice things is not the same as having access to capital to make your own choices. And so I think that the lack of protocols and communities enforcing standards that give providers real power and choice is what's missing. And that's the result of removing the ecosystems that we built for ourselves on the internet to keep each other safe and to provide each other with backup.
Yeah. Where we can't promote quote unquote sex work.
Right.
Which technically
or information about sex or female nipples or art.
Yeah, it keeps coming from like the same source people, and it's then as we talked about, like that's how we got the Tumblr porn ban.
Right.
It all comes from that. So
yeah, it's so interesting to me. I know I said this on the episode, but I want more people to hear it. It's like in an age where we're seeing like a real resurgence in fascism. Thank God we have a government that is willing to crack down on the existential threat of tatas.
Yeah. Well, God forbid these women had their own money. That wasn't.
And it all the big fundamental fear and like the fight that we've been having for 6,000 years is the existential threat of female sexual autonomy. Its threat to patriarchy, literally, and its threat to paternalism, and it's like if you question the paternity of things of people, like
there's a 2-year-old going like, "Where are people?"
No, I mean, what's true about me is that it doesn't matter how many people I have sex with. I'm just going to know it's my baby. So like matriarchal lineage literally makes the most sense. Yeah. And once you divorce yourself from that sort of natural state and impose paternity as like the lineage path, then that justifies the curtailment of like women's freedom, right? Like, and it justifies the violent repression of the freedom of movement, freedom of expression of women, because you have to protect them from like all the dicks, which I think is a great segue into our question.
Yeah. So I got this email advice. I got this email in from a listener.
Are you gonna read the whole thing?
Yeah, I'm gonna read the email, and
Great.
then you tell me what so you can sit and percolate on the.
Can I chime in during it, or do you want me to let you get through reading the whole fucking thing?
Feel free to chime in.
Okay, great.
Yeah. I would say leave your big fucking uppercut. I don't know how boxing, which is the strong one, but whichever the punch is that's hardest to the just because there's gonna be a lot, and I feel like there's.
You look like a man who's never been in a fight.
Ouch. You're just full of, full of insults today. I've been in a fight. Hey, Billy. I'm trying to find the beginning.
It looks long.
Well, just,
you want me to read it?
No, she reached out to me on Instagram first, and then was like, I was like, hey, send me an email. That's easier. Okay. I don't want to do a long, important message with my thumbs. She writes, hey, so to recap, I am 18 and so is my partner.
Okay.
So obviously I know this isn't the best sex I'm ever going to have, or at least I hope not.
Great insight.
Yeah. But still pretty good by my current standards.
Sure.
I have no qualms about how we interact at all. However, we have a kink relationship with a strict, obvious dynamic, which, while fun and exciting, is kind of restrictive for me considering I'm a switch. Okay, I feel like I like this person, maybe I even love them, but here's the issue. His idea of open relationship feels restricted to me. I'm a bisexual female while he's a heterosexual man. Mm-hmm. He has every right to do whatever he wants with women, given he follows my personal rules. Condoms at all times and all that.
Great boundary.
Right. and I don't control who he can sleep with in any way as long as I don't share DNA with them. But he has multiple times expressed that he would rather I don't be with other men and instead exclusively interact with other women. Now, don't get me wrong, I love girls, and I usually end up with them anyway, but something about this no-dick policy makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he can sleep... Like, he can sleep with 100% of his preference, and I can only have 50%. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if I'm being unreasonable with this, but it makes me feel strange. I don't often sleep with other people. I'm picky. So I feel ridiculous bringing this up, even when I don't have a specific man I want to sleep with right now.
Sure.
But it also feels important to say, because if I'm out and a cute guy is hitting on me, I want to be able to act on that and not worry about some sexist notion that men are competition, but women aren't.
She diagnosed the problem. It is a sexist notion, absolutely. And also, people are allowed to be sexist in their sexual preferences, because that's like, I'm sorry, you're not done.
Oh, no, sure. I mean, you're basically answering the end. She ends with like her three questions. Her questions are, where do you think it's coming from? Am I wrong for being upset?
No.
And how do you think I should act?
Well, that sort of depends on how, whether or not you want to continue the relationship and what boundaries matter to you. So I would say some reading material, because this is going to come up over and over again in this young person's life. Mm-hmm. So what I would say to her and what I would say to listeners is, like, familiarize yourself with The Chalice and the Blade, which is a great book, or When God Was a Woman, which is another great book. And it's about sort of the history of the imposition of misogyny on human culture, and like what that transition looks like. And at the heart of it is paternal insecurity and male insecurity, and a rejection and a defiling of the goddess, right? And so you can look at other cultures, other cultures and other times. Women have had different positions in culture, but this visceral. Sorry, you're going to edit this, right?
Sure.
Great. This like visceral rejection of like other dicks is very old, and it comes from a very violent, very patriarchal, very misogynistic place, and it's the cornerstone of, it's like the justification for the violent suppression and confinement of women, right? Is like keeping other dicks out of your wives and daughters so that you can make sure that all of your sons are your sons so that they can get all of their property. But there was like actually a time when women owned all of the property, and things were done through the matriarchal line. And whatever. We can talk about that.
The only thing on that type of history I have to one fact I have to add is like the origin of the word economics had to do with women running shit.
Well, absolutely. Right. We can talk about like temples of Ishtar, and like you can nerd out on that history until the cows come home and, scream bloody murder.
That's the conceptual, like, where does this come from?
Where does this come from?
But like I think it's like when we're talking practically, especially with like young dudes who have not been active really for that long, it's there's a lot of different reasons, and I encourage her to like ask him,
right? And
I would, why, like, I think when you ask why enough times, not to like be like a Louis C.K. bit, but just like if you keep asking why, like someone will either realize that they're wrong or that they'll just break down. And I think that's true, and I think that it's important to ask, especially men in this culture, to articulate their reasons for their internalized misogyny on this issue, of like asking them to really examine where that comes from and what they believe, because it's just the way that it is, or it's just the way that I feel, is like an unexamined false belief. Now, we go our whole lives with unexamined false beliefs, and you and your boyfriend, unfortunately, are operating in like a fairly misogynistic, like territorial culture that still views women's bodies as possessions and things to be controlled. Now, I love that you guys have an open relationship. I love that you guys are talking about this. I think that's wonderful. But like, everyone is allowed to establish what their own boundaries are. Yours is condoms. I think that's really reasonable, and like your justification for it is that you don't want to get an STD or deal with your partner impregnating someone, because that sounds hard. Like, that sounds great. But if you meet somebody who says, I will not abide to be fenced in that way, if that's a deal breaker for you, then that means that
that's a deal breaker for you and you have to end the relationship. So this guy can be wrong and also still decide that it's a deal breaker for him. So I think it's important, especially at 18, probably this isn't your life partner.
Right.
But you are establishing patterns and learning how to set and articulate boundaries. So I think, meditate for yourself what your real lines are and think about this relationship as an experiment, and ask this guy to articulate where he's coming from and decide for yourself what your boundaries and your red lines are, and recognize that he has that same freedom. And just because somebody's wrong doesn't mean that they won't leave you for dumb reasons.
Yeah. And just because he has a boundary that you don't like doesn't mean you're wrong if you decide you don't want to be in that relationship at all. You're allowed to be that's a fine boundary for you to have. I don't want to be a part of it. I'm out.
Yeah.
But I also would encourage her not to fall for the I feel as his when you're asking the whys, because I feel like I can see it going, so why no other dicks? And the first or the second layer will be, well, it makes me feel, feel this. And I'll be like, no. Because it's sex that doesn't involve him necessarily. So it's not like when a girl, when he's like, why can't we do anal? She's like, it doesn't feel good. He's like, well, that's right. Different. Because that's sex that involves the person. This is sex that doesn't involve him. It's not like he has to be with the dicks.
Yes.
So don't sell for that feel. Continue to ask why. Be also, why do you feel that way?
And also recognize that your feelings are just as valid as his, right? He's entitled to his feelings and you're entitled to yours. So he can feel uncomfortable with you being exposed to other dicks, and you can feel uncomfortable with him having feelings about that. Those are, and that's an emotional impasse, and that's why egalitarian relationships are hard, and which is why we just elected a boss for the last 6,000 years. It was easier when one member of the relationship was compliant property, but we're not doing that anymore. So welcome to adulting.
The other solution that is not my favorite solution, which I don't know if it would be yours either, but there is the argument to be made that you guys can say, okay, we're not going to do an open relationship, but if you still are I need to get my pussy fixed, I want to be able to do right. You can still have threesomes together with female thirds, but I also, especially with someone so young, do not like rewarding bad behavior.
Right.
And so that feels like you're giving him the gift of fine, when we hook up with other chicks, I'll just make sure you're there. Not I feel like he's not going to learn that the one penis policy is sexist.
Sure.
But that is technically a valid solution.
I will also say from a tactical perspective that I think it's good that you don't have another specific dick in mind, because I think it's much easier to have the theoretical dick conversation than it is to talk about Billy's dick specifically.
Right, because then he can picture the scary dick.
Yes, yeah, picture the scary dick.
Yeah.
I also think as part of the feeling conversation, and when you start delving into the whys, I think at the heart of this penis possession narrative, besides patriarchy and misogyny and possession and all of that jazz, is a real insecurity of his fears about losing you. And so I think talking about emotional boundaries when it comes to outside the relationship sex is worth having, right? Are you guys comfortable? What does emotional cheating look like? What about whether
can I fuck people? Can I date people? It's
right, because I do think you're 18, you're probably in school, there's probably a job, there's a lot of competition for your time and emotional energy, and so maybe this guy thinks that women are better at taking care of themselves and doesn't want another dude competing for your feminine attention in that way. But I don't know. I don't want to go
we also don't know the boyfriend, but
right.
These are all things that very well could be at play.
Right.
And a conversation is going to be the best way to figure out what exactly it is. Yeah. But just I think we're providing a lot of things to look out for, because there's a lot of bullshit a guy will spew in defense of a policy like this.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I think that arm yourself by reading Chalice and the Blade, When God Was a Woman. Familiarize yourself with the history that led to just the way things are, or whatever. Sure. And then understand that this isn't the first time you're going to have this difficult, thorny conversation. Good luck.
It's going to be over and over again as a bi chick in the world.
Yeah. And thank you for all of the education you're doing. For me and my fiance are doing monogamy for now. Is what we're doing.
Is it a thing you guys raised as we see this is what we will want later, but now is this? We
see this as this is what we want now and as a building block for a long future, but treating infidelity or the potential for opening our relationship as like a non-emergency future issue.
Yeah.
Of like something to discuss and communicate. It's not a big red line or like a deal breaker for either of us. We're choosing not to make extramarital sex an emergency.
Absolutely. And on either side of it, like the fear of it or wanting it.
Yes.
Neither. Yeah.
Right. And like, like right now, I don't want to have sex with anyone else, but life is long. And we are both very aware of the impacts of, child rearing and familiarity and all of that stuff. So it's like something to be discussed and continuously negotiated, which I think is a good relationship policy, no matter what your sexual arrangement is.
That is horrifically reasonable.
Oh, thank you.
Kaytlin, thank you so much for your insights and for telling us some more about why we should listen to sex workers.
Yeah.
Because they keep being right, and it's scary times. Where can people find you? Where can they listen to your podcast, The Oldest Profession? And also, if you can tell us maybe like a line or two about the DCSW.
Oh, absolutely. So you can follow me on Twitter at Kaytlin Bailey. It's Kaytlin. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Old Pro Podcast. And please listen to episodes. We have over 50, The Oldest Profession podcast. Every episode, we do a deep dive into the life and context of an old pro from history, a sex worker. And the Decriminalize Sex Work is a new lobbying organization that is taking a state-by-state campaign strategy to try to decriminalize sex work on a state level before going national. So, yeah.
Fantastic.
We're doing what marijuana did, what gay marriage did, what progressive campaigns have done before. We're experimenting with small states with cheap media markets to see if we can help change the stories we tell about what it means to be a sex worker and how dumb it is to lock us up.
That's wonderful. And Oldest Profession, I highly recommend, especially, I haven't listened to the old ones where you had like a co-host, but like the Stormy Daniels episode, the Sylvester Stallone episodes, great ones to start with. And Kaytlin, thanks again. Well, I'm glad Kaytlin could join me and help out with that question. But now it's time for the fan whore appreciation moment. Okay. This is the part of the podcast where I like to give a shout out to some of the members of my fan whore community on Patreon. Giving a shout out right now to Ken Curson, who is, let's just say, giving me more than just some patronage. Thank you very much for the book, kind sir. Thank you very much to Buckshot LaFonk. Just like you, I was also knocked out of our Fan Whore Fantasy Football League playoffs this weekend. Damn you, Saquon. But hey, buddy, there's always next year. Am I right? Thank you so much for your support. And a big shout out to The Mariah Report, which is another podcast that, I shit you not, is all about Mariah Carey. And they've been running for years. Now, if you were thinking to yourself, well, like how far can you really stretch the concept of a Mariah Carey podcast? They do twice a week, everybody. Twice weekly. Some call that bi-weekly, but then I don't know if bi-weekly means like twice a week or every other week, and it's very confusing. But holy shit, that's a lot of Mariah Carey in your life. Honestly thought she was only worth like a 3-part miniseries at best. But hey, Mariah Report, thank you so much for supporting the Man Whore podcast. And you too can become a member for as little as $1 per month. And you receive all sorts of wonderful perks like bonus episodes of the Man Whore podcast and access to exclusive sex-positive discussion groups like the Champagne Room. And today is again the last day to qualify for that limited time only sticker, that hand-drawn sticker, that really fun little Man Whore holiday magic, which will only be available to $2 members by the end of today. So again, go to patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. If you want that sticker, go pledge $2. And if you just want to say that you're helping out, throw $1 down. It all goes towards a bigger goal. It all adds up, I swear. Again, that's Patreon, patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. Before I get to my guest this week, Brian Watson, I do want to talk to you one more time about hotmovies.com, everyone. Ooh, boy. Yeah, for about 6 months, I have been promoting hotmovies.com, a wonderful pay-per-minute porn site, because I really do think this is the future of the porn industry. It is a fantastic, ethical, and, might I say, affordable way to pay for some of your porn. The porn industry has so many free trial offers. There's so many. You can watch so much porn for free if you manage a bunch of, free trial memberships. But what I don't like is that when the trial is done, there's all these like secret fees or these hidden subscriptions. You know, they say, oh, you got a 14-day free trial. And then they don't tell you, or, well, they told you, but hey, who's actually reading the fine print? Yeah, 15 days later, you end up with like a $75 charge on your credit card. Hotmovies.com doesn't pull any of those shenanigans. I should know. I put my credit card down 6 months ago and I've been a happy man ever since. Head on over to hotmovies.com/bonus. Use promo code MANWHORE. It's been fantastic working with this company for most of 2018. I really do believe in it. And like I said, I use it myself. I used it last night to watch Girlcore 3. All right, now for this week's guest, Brian Watson. Brian Watson, to pull the curtain back a little bit, is a fan of the show. We've been chatting online for several years, like probably most of the years I've been doing this thing. His Twitter handle was like @historyofporn, seemed like someone I should pay attention to. And then he ended up really digging the podcast, and then he became a patron. And then he came to Man Whore Con. I mean, dude is all in on the Man Whore podcast community, but that's not why he's here. He's here because he is a porn historian, which is a real thing, apparently. Yeah, he wrote a book called The Annals of Pornography, How Porn Became Bad. And he also co-hosts the Ask Historians podcast, which I should mention. Ask Historians is one word when you're searching for it. I had on Brian to discuss, obviously pornography, but so much more. And I'm not even going to try to list all the topics. I'm just going to let you listen to me with friend and fan whore, Brian Watson.
He's like a big one with a big tube in the front.
Oh, wow. So what you're trying to say is your microphone's bigger than my microphone?
My microphone's much bigger than your microphone, Billy. I'm sorry.
I thought I saw differently at ManWhoreCon, so what do I know? But y'all are hearing the wonderful sounds of Brian Watson. You can say hello.
Hello, guys.
You've heard the show. You know how this works.
Yes, I have. Have you done show dates already?
No. Yeah, that will already have happened in the past tense, or for me in the future, whenever this comes out.
It must be mind fuck.
Yeah, we're going to be dealing with like a different natural disaster or Trump tweets by the time this comes out than the ones we were dealing with this morning.
Let's try to resist checking Twitter then.
Yeah. Well, you're hearing Brian Watson, who is a porn historian and podcaster and fellow fan whore.
That's true. Accurate. Those are all real things I am.
Yeah, not just a listener, but everybody. A patron. He's in the Peep Show, the Champagne Room, and if you're not, you're missing out. But we'll talk more about that later.
Absolutely.
But yeah. So you wrote a book.
I did.
I haven't written a book. You've written a book.
You probably should write a book. I feel like you could. You have the right angle for it.
What would I write a book on?
My book is called. You could write a book on your adventures.
I feel like that feels hacky. What? Just another like guy with our face talking about sleeping with women. I feel like people
white men have been telling how to do sex forever, so like you basically have the market cornered.
Yeah, no, but I thought we were in a transitionary period where like we don't need me as much to do. Like I feel like me having the podcast is just the right amount of Billy in the world. Anything more, I feel like I feel
like your angle would be like, let's talk to all these sex experts for a year, and then it's like, what have I learned?
I have thought about trying to like, what if I did like a one-man show of just like how to get laid, but obviously like in the front, I go back to my usual advice to dudes, which is stop trying to get laid,
stop being an asshole.
But when you stop, when you have to take your eye off of this like penis and a pussy thing, then you get less anxious, you get less entitled, you stop being an asshole, you treat women like people, and It's just so weird. Like when I treat women like humans, they tend to want to get naked with me.
It's kind of an amazing concept to actually consider women to be human beings.
Yeah, it's so fucking weird because like they're not. But we should treat them like they are.
Oh, we're two white dudes talking. We're heading on a bad track now, Billy.
Oh, if you think that's bad, you should have heard me at Desire. Oh man, I think after the gender bender type conversations I was having with Kenzie, it was just kind of like, I think I'm the transiest cis guy she knows, and then she was like, "That's so accurate, but so uncomfortable to accept."
That is like straight up snowflake melting right there.
Oh, her snowflake heart melted, and it was great. Last time we were on the phone, she made like I would say it was like a rape adjacent joke in a way on her own. I did not bring up the topic, and then she realized she's like, "Did I just make a rape joke?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you did." She's like, "Oh no,
you've been bad influence on her."
Well, I try.
You can be the good angel on her, a bad angel on her shoulder.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about Kenzie, who you've all heard on episode 200, and you heard on the Desire episode. And, if you came out to ManWhoreCon 2018, you would have met Kenzie. Both Kenzie and Brian. And me, but I'm not important. But more like you and Kenzie. But yeah. So I guess do we count as metamors now, or
I guess technically this is the first time you had a metamor on the podcast. Would that be accurate?
I'm sure I've had one on and maybe just didn't even think about it.
But yeah, I guess just we technically count as metamors.
Sure, yeah, there we go. Or Eskimo brothers, as like the dude bros would call it.
That's the old school way of referring to it.
Yeah, but metamor, it's got that O-U-R that many Americans kind of trip up on. You want to have words that are easy to spell.
Metamor, I butcher the spelling of metamor probably 3 times a day.
Well, according to the one Amazon review on your book, there were plenty of typos and spelling errors throughout.
That's pretty brutal.
Don't worry,
so like the first
that's
edition,
not your fault. That's your editor's fault.
Huh? No, it's fine. No.
Well, tell us more about your book, man.
So the book is titled Annals of Pornography, How Porn Became Bad.
Did you purposely try to fit the word anal into your title, or just
I have no idea what you're talking about. I have a right to the fit.
God.
It's about the history of obscenity. I start kind of at the Renaissance, which, as we all know, that's where history really began. With the Renaissance,
none of the things that happened before.
Nothing of interest really happened before the Renaissance.
And the Jews are here like, we have thousands of years. Nah, not important.
Not important. Nothing of interest really happened before about 1450 or so. And
the Asians like Genghis Khan. Oh, whatever.
Forget it.
Leonardo.
Nothing of interest that happened like east of Istanbul either. So, it's east of Istanbul either. Nothing interesting. So it's 1450 Renaissance, and I go to 1950 Hollywood. Just kind of trace how pornography, as we understand it as a concept, developed from the very beginning as just kind of a way of like satire to the very end of what you see in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm. Wait, do you interchange the words obscenity and porn?
Well, I used when you're talking about it historically, the word pornographos, meaning drawings of prostitutes, only existed probably about. Good.
Oh, keep going.
Only existed.
Ignore what I'm doing here.
Was only invented as a word about 1857.
Okay.
That is when they discovered what they found at Pompeii. They were digging up Pompeii and they found all these naked women on the wall, literally prostitutes on the wall. And they were like, we need a word to protect the women and children from what we've discovered. So we're going to use this fancy Greek word, pornographo. Still have no idea what we're talking about. So if you look at it that way, pornography's only been around for like 150 years.
Really? Interesting. I think that was the first place I saw those, like, I think the first place I saw it because I went into the bathhouses at Pompeii when I went as a kid. And I always remember that, and that's how I wrote the joke.
That's the museum in Naples.
No, it wasn't a museum. It was like when I was just like touring Pompeii. So like we would go into some of the older whatever spots.
Got
it.
They
seemed like they're on
as a child,
site.
You weren't able to go to the secret museum part of it.
There's a secret museum.
Yeah, you gotta pay
Pompeii?
like €8 extra, and they take you to like the museum with all the extra stuff they found, like the dildos and the statues and the vases. With
like
all the
Caesar bent over, taking it in the ass.
Caesar is unfortunately a bottom. I just recently discovered this out.
Is there porn of Caesar from back then? In a way.
Well, it depends on how you wanted to find porn.
Well, like, were there like maybe like satirical painting drawings of like, the government official taking it in the ass or something?
Well, I couldn't really speak to ancient Greek, but there are lots of poems talking about Caesar being a bottom.
Okay.
Tullus and even other poets could agree that Caesar was actually a bottom.
Well, like how so?
How
Tell me
so?
more.
Like they agree that kids
No,
are
I meant
divine.
like what? Like this is like verses in the shows.
Yeah, it's Catullus 57, and he goes on kind of to say like, well, Caesar, he kind of likes it taking it like a little girl in the bottom, and that in ancient Roman and Greek context, that would have been a way of like undermining your opponent and making him look weak.
It's wait, so how'd you even get into being such a nerd on porn? Because like some people take nerding out on porn to mean like they know every Asa Akira movie she's ever done, and you were like, no, I'm gonna go like older.
I'm going to go all the way, fully old school, and that's kind of what I was getting to earlier. Pornography, as we understand it, 150 years. But if we go back to the Renaissance, it's called erotic. I use the term erotic discourse, and it's a way of like making fun of the church, making fun of the king, and making fun of the state of the culture. So you put out this sexy poem about the Pope fucking somebody in the ass, and it's like a way of like slandering the Pope. Like the equivalent would be Donald Trump porn today. Would be the equivalent.
Like porn is not always used just to excite and to get off on. It's sometimes used as like, you know, as satire, as commentary.
And in the past, that was the only way it was really thought of being used, because
People weren't jerking off to that.
Yeah, maybe.
I
I'm
felt
not
like
going to
the
say
whole-
nobody's ever jerked off to it in the history of humanity.
I mean, people have jerked off to so many things.
People have probably jerked off to the Donald Trump porn.
People have jerked off to this podcast. Like people jerk off to so many things.
People jerk off to Donald Trump, which is a real shame.
Well, like, but like, you know, it's when I remember that seeing the murals in the bathhouses, I imagined they were there to excite and that's why they were like in the bathhouse. So it's like, oh, we're going to go to the bathhouse. We're going to get all, you know, horned up seeing this stuff and then bang.
In the Roman context, yes, but we can't think of it that way because they're all dead and we don't have any evidence really of that. What we have is what the Victorians who discovered it figured out. And to them, it was obscene and bad.
Sure.
So it's only obscene and bad to them because after erotic satire, it becomes obscenity. And after it becomes obscenity, it splits off in between something pornographic, like we understand it, and something just critiquing the state.
Does your book cover I'm going to use porn to mean like nude stuff meant to like excite my loins.
Right.
Does your book cover obscenity that's not porn?
Yes.
Like what?
Well, there's a few different examples I guess you could take. Obviously, one of the very first examples is Martin Luther, his very first writings against the Pope. And you wouldn't be like, well, he was just kind of making fun of the Pope because he didn't like Catholicism. He was trying to make his own religion. But what he would do, he would like go on about how the Pope was shitting himself everywhere, how the Pope's a filthy prostitute who's just like shitting himself and everybody's laughing at him. He'd use these cropophilic jokes, these scat jokes against the Pope.
Cropophilic?
Yep.
Can you dumb things down for me,
lover
please?
of shit.
Okay. Yeah. Remember, fake smart person. There's a lot of books, and that doesn't mean anything. It's a big bookshelf right behind him with like all my books, and that doesn't mean squat. I'm still an idiot.
Well, that's not really erotic. It's a way of like making fun of the Pope.
Sure.
And that's not something that you probably wouldn't get excited to unless you had very specific tastes.
True.
No judgment. It's the 21st century.
Right. Well, I brought this up as you heard, like with Hallie Lieberman, who wrote that book Buzz. You know, comedy, the way like stand-up comedy has been treated, and certain arts have been treated in the same way as like pornography,
Precisely.
under this like umbrella term of obscenity. And then who gets to determine it? As the Supreme Court said, they were like, we'll know it when we see it. I'm like, that's not fair.
Exactly. And that's the point I'm making in my book, too, is that they were originally the same thing. They originally were the same thing. We get these two concepts of satire and porn from the very same source.
Yeah.
And that's when I trace.
Under this big thing of badness.
Yes.
So it's not even like, what kind of badness? We don't want to talk about it. Just badness.
You're hitting on it perfectly.
Yeah.
We don't want to talk about it in front of the
book.
women. And we don't want to talk in front of the children. And we don't want to talk about lower class men. But between us educated, upper class, Latin speaking men, it's fine. It's fine. It's
Yeah.
cool.
You can say anything raunchy you want so long as it's in Latin. And why is that? Because in today's day and age, no one knows Latin. So it's, but it's interesting because you think of like, you know, comedians like Lenny Bruce, who was, you know, arrested on obscenity charges multiple times. And it's not even like, and that was the thing that upsets me. I'm a big rules guy. So it's not even that it's like, we don't want to follow the rules. People were like, give us the rules. And no one wanted to. George Carlin, right? 7 dirty words you can't say on television. It was all about how he's like, I just wanted a list. He was like, I'll follow the rules. Just give me the list of words I can't say. and I'll just not say those words. And they were like, no. And so he came up a bit that has the words you can't say. He made up his own list, which kind of impromptu became the list.
Yeah.
That wasn't the list till George Carlin was like, I think this is the list.
Well, George Carlin was lucky to live in a time in which if you made fun of the state in that way, you didn't get executed. And that wasn't true for the vast majority of human history.
So to make your Caesar porno mural was was very risky.
Yes, very risky. And to make your poem about the Pope, very risky. To make your poem about, or your story about the state, like Marquis de Sade, you end up in jail or in the insane asylum for the whole rest of your fucking life.
True. It's just so wild. What got you even interested in all this?
Oh, so I went for a master's program in history.
Nerd. Okay, sorry.
Sorry, it's okay.
I've
come to terms with it.
Brian's looking like a historian. I'm wearing a tank top by accident. It's, we have a huge, we're just doing Revenge of the Nerds 17 over here.
So I went to Drew University for my master's program, which is like just outside the city. I lived in the city for a little bit, and New York City, I guess I should specify.
Oh, okay.
And then I moved to New Jersey because New York is way too fucking expensive, and was not able to do that. But Drew University, I was doing my research, kind of just getting a history major in like British literature, and then for a master's, you have to do something unique that's never been done before, something that nobody's ever really talked about. And I was interested in like book censorship, but everybody's done religious censorship and everybody's done political censorship. The new field is sex censorship. It's not really been looked at, not really been talked about. So I started doing history of the book and history of sexuality to develop like, why do we have this idea of pornography? Why did we get here from where you could just put it up on a wall in a museum and it was art to this is going to get you in jail and probably killed.
Right. And I mean, were you like super nerded? Like, were you super into porn before then?
No, actually, surprisingly, it kind of like I kind of stumbled into it by accident. Can you fix your batteries?
No, you're fine. I'm just keeping an eye. I just wanted to have them handy for if it goes.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it strangely enough, I've never really liked porn all that much. Like, of course, watched it as any young boy would do, and we had scramble porn, and you have to hit the side of the television and kind of hope that was a breast you're jerking off to, but never really got interested in porn, so to speak, until like I got interested in like the academic debate of it. So now I'm like researching like more as like an academic way.
So then what do you jerk off to?
I guess that's probably a question I should have expected. I don't really have a particular thing to jerk off to, I guess.
This Shakespeare play is so good.
I go back and forth between like I'll just browse Reddit until I find something that looks vaguely appealing for my current mood. But
you're looking at porn? That's what I'm trying to get at, is like if you weren't interested in porn really, and then you started studying porn, but you weren't like getting into porn to jerk to, you're getting into porn to write about it and to study. So then it's like, well, then what does one jerk it to if quote unquote porn isn't the thing? Or do you now I
would say I'm very, very compersive. I'm very, very into just finding what other people find attractive. And like, I'm like, oh, I can look at this I can kind of see what you find this hot or attractive in this. And like, maybe I can get off to that. That to me is like a really interesting angle to look at it.
Well, like the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition, or
or like there's a subreddit
or what?
There's a subreddit right now that I'm doing a research project on called NSFW 411. And it's like a 411 website where you can go like, I want more of X. And X could be like dominant woman or cunnilingus or something like that. And then people will request that, and then other people will answer those questions. So my research is kind of like developing like how
they're asking for advice, or they're looking for their porn suggestions.
Right. And then I'm like, oh, well, I can kind of see how you find that attractive. And I guess that's to me is like something I can enjoy from that angle.
I like in terms of like porn subreddits that aren't porn. There's what is it? I think it's called Tip of the Penis.
Yes, like this is the reverse of Tip of the Penis.
Yeah. So in this subreddit, it's kind of like it's going off the phrase, it's what's the thing? It's on the
tip of my tongue.
Tip of my tongue, right? It's on the tip of my penis. It's someone trying to describe a porn that they've seen. They are trying to find this porn again, but they don't know how to find it. And so they'll be like, oh, it had this actress, or like this was the storyline, or it was from this era, and they'll try to throw as much as they can. And then, yeah, people will fill in underneath, like, was it this video? Was it this video? And I'm like, oh my God, like, nerds. Love it. Those are pretty fun. There's like a lot of subreddits like that, or ones where it's like, oh, which subreddit do I put this image in?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So even in the vast world of Reddit porn, there's also like the assisting you in finding porn of, Reddit porn threads.
And that's actually one of the research papers I'm doing right now is like, why do people do this and how do they sort porn that's different from the way like Pornhub.com sorts it?
Well, the sorting is interesting. We can get into that, like with how with all the different subreddits. But I think in terms of the why, it's trying to help a guy out, right?
Right.
It's camaraderie.
But like
brotherhood.
They're not getting money for it. They're not getting paid for it. They're just getting the self-satisfaction of having somebody else get his rocks off.
Look, why do you go to Burning Man and give someone batteries? Because you know what? They might give you a back rub later, or they may have some shampoo. This is just it's a community.
So it's like the great pornographic karma wheel.
Yes.
In which if you give enough porn to somebody, it will come back to you in return.
Look, you can give a man a porn link and he'll be able to jerk it for a day. But teach a man how to find that porn link, and he will be able to jerk it for forever.
That might be the wisest thing I've heard today.
Or ever on this show?
Or ever on
I don't know how long you've been listening.
I don't know if I go that far. I don't know if I go quite that far.
Well, so now Reddit subreddits are fucking fascinating because they break down so specifically.
Right.
To an almost uncomfortable level.
Yes.
Like there is, if you just talk about this, and I'm not even going to be able to list all of them, but if we're just talking about like bigger girls, you've got our chubby, our thick, our curvy, our BBW, our SBBW, our SSBBW, which is like super, super big, beautiful woman. There's our slightly chubby. That's 7 right there. Off the top
Women
of
of
my
color,
head.
chubby, feeders for people who like into the whole fetish of
stuffers.
building it.
Then there's stuffers gone wild.
Cuckold, cuckold chubby, cuckold impregnation chubby pregnancy.
We can do our prego. I guess we can
deeper and deeper.
I tend to separate the pregnant from the chubby. I find them to be slightly different things for me. But yeah, the idea.
If you were on your own mission to find something you found hot, then yes.
Yeah.
So that'd be a big difference in material, I guess.
So we just listed like about 10 plus subreddits just for like slightly bigger women, and we barely even dived into like what situation are they in, what race is she, what age, right? And so in on Reddit, there's like a subreddit for everything.
Subreddits with hashtags.
What's your favorite subreddits to jerk to?
I don't have one again, so like I just I bounce around from like place to place. But I'm what I'm doing right now is like studying a research of like why does it get so fragmented? How do people develop these fetishes? Because we don't really have any. We don't know how people come into fetishes. Like some theories say like, oh, it's just something they found hot as a child, or which can be true in many cases, or it's like they found one thing, like, oh, they saw somebody getting spanked and then they ended up in crazy hardcore BDSM. We have this like story of corruption of your mind that happens if you watch too much porn. I don't think that
like to be into feet, something had to have happened, even if it's not traumatic. Like you being into a specific thing is a deviation, not just how you are.
Right.
In the same way that we once thought homosexuality was a deviation, not just how someone is.
Right. And to think of what that does, that privileges the white, normal, straight man as the mode against what everything else is measured.
Oh, that sweet, sweet privilege. Oh, I feel so good.
You're basically Adonis. That's what that says. Is that whatever weird thing somebody else is into, because it's not what you are, then it's wrong.
As Billy takes off his shirt and exposes his like doughy, undisciplined body, he says, well, you're basically an Adonis.
Well, I mean, that would be in what subreddit?
In
male curvy BBW?
There are dudes who post on stuffers.
Of course.
In 2018 McDonald's America, like, yeah, I am kind of an Adonis. So, but
I mean, you're not that far off from David himself. If you look at a statue of David.
Yeah, if David just like had a steady diet of carbs and pizza, I think he'd look like me.
You probably rock up our pose. I mean, if you want to like, David's not that ripped. He's not like Schwarzenegger ripped.
He's pretty damn ripped.
He's not Schwarzenegger ripped.
He's pretty, yeah, but that's different. That's bodybuilder. I'm just talking about like healthy, top 5 at the swingers resort. That's
Sure, but to get back to what we're saying is like that kind of like I'm kind of like trying to say like why do we have this idea of like corruption? Like this child discovers something erotic, so in 10 years he's going to be like addicted to porn and like on the streets and whatever. Right. It's like, and that's why so many states are trying to ban porn and trying to care porn.
Are they trying? I mean, are states actively really trying? I know it was like part of the 2016 GOP party platform, and if I have Republican listeners, which I'm still shocked if I do, but if I have any Republican listeners who are like, oh, like it's fine, they're not going to do. I mean, they put it in the platform. They didn't just. It wasn't a couple of candidates who said, oh, we don't like porn. I'm talking it's in the fucking platform.
Did you know 27 states and more have now talked about declaring porn as a public health crisis?
I've heard something like that, yeah.
27 states in the past 4 years. And what they're doing is that's the first step. You declared a public health crisis. Okay, now they have to do something.
And now you have more executive power where maybe you don't necessarily need your state's Congress, state's congressional approval. I got there. I figured out how to say
Tennessee, it. Utah, and South Carolina are taking the next step in which they're investigating taxing computers to like try to make a porn filter. Or they're going to say like, oh, if you've ever been damaged by porn, you can sue porn companies. That's the next step to try to bankrupt the porn industry. And once they take
an industry already, struggling,
and now they're trying to go at it from a political angle too. So we're actually living, and that's just not just in the United States.
And this also isn't theoretical.
Yep, it's been banned in South Africa, India, crackdowns in Germany, England. So for the very first time, we're living in the biggest anti-porn resurgence.
Well, England didn't ban porn. I just want to clarify. I know because I know what you're talking about, but they made some pretty heavy restrictions on what porn is like allowed.
No fisting,
no face sitting, no BDSM. So they didn't ban porn. I just want to clarify before someone goes like, "We have porn," but
that's the first step, and now they're talking about even increasing restrictions.
Of course. But I just don't know how realistic it is, at least in this country, because Utah watches so much porn. Like every time Pornhub releases a new map of like their usage, Utah is huge. Like y'all watch fucking porn.
It's strange how the most conservative states seem to have the most porn use.
But that's why, and because they also have these unhealthy attitudes towards sexuality, that's also why they declare it like a public health crisis, because they do believe it's a health crisis.
Right.
They do. But that's the thing. It's I think we always have to remember, us wonderful liberals, on the always absolutely right 100% of the time, but absolutely not really side. We have to remember that most of the people who believe something other than us, they truly believe it. Like I had a buddy from Ohio who explained it this way. He's pro-choice. But he's like, you have to realize the people from like my hometown who are against abortion, they believe that fetus is a baby.
Right.
So they think you're killing babies, not aborting a fetus.
Mm-hmm.
If you thought people were killing babies, of course you'd be against it. So it like, although they are wrong, they are incorrect, just a factually incorrect. The logic of how their brain got there with just a piece of misinformation is totally rational.
I don't think there's anything wrong with like if you really believe this is a baby that's being killed. It's then it gets into politics, and we have to do the very best we can to stamp out like that sort of political movement. Control women's bodies,
right? But at the same time, like it isn't just factually speaking, it's not killing a baby. It is a fetus.
Right.
It is not a baby. But these people think it's a baby, and they do believe that. So if you thought people were killing babies, you would obviously try to stop that.
Mm-hmm.
They're just very misinformed. And the same thing goes with like public health crisis with porn. People go like porn addiction and like a health crisis, like, but it's not. But if you thought it was, of course you would try to ban it.
Right.
And it's so weird how just like these little bits of misinformation cause such a huge fucking clusterfuck.
Because what happens if you do get that sort of enough states to agree to do that, or enough states to start going after the porn industry? They're not rich people. They're not rich like they were in the 60s and 70s. They don't have the kind of lawyers to fight like they did anymore. And if you have the Supreme Court changed, then you could very well have porn be banned illegally.
Well, porn, I mean, realistically, porn is never going to get banned nationwide. But the thing is, it's just like, even if they were to hopefully, knock on wood, don't. But if like Roe v. Wade were overturned, it's like, what's most likely, it's like it wouldn't be banned nationwide, but it would be heavily restricted in certain states. And so like a state like New York will probably be just fine. But like if you live in Texas, you're pretty fucked.
Right.
And so same thing with porn. It's like I don't think they're ever going to ban porn, but will they maybe be able to stop interstate mailing of porn?
That's a flashback to the 1850s.
That's flashback to 1990s. That's the 1980s. That's what Ali Lieberman was. It's kind of what her book's kind of all about. Just whether it be sex toys or porno mags. That's kind of the scarier thing. But I don't think they'll ban porn, but they'll just make it very inconvenient. And then we're gonna just get a lot of viruses on our computers trying to get.
At
it
one
in
point,
sketchy
though, do you
manners.
think like super inconvenient, like so inconvenient, it's the same thing as a ban?
Well, depending where you live.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. Abortion is not illegal in Texas, but when the trap laws were still on the books, or being enforced in Texas, it was so hard to obtain especially if you were poor and lived 300 miles from the near one of like 8 abortion clinics. Then like it was effectively you couldn't get it, but it was technically legal. So it's like, if they make it very, very difficult to obtain the porno, they'll just be like, oh, well, it is legal. If you live in New York City, it's fine. But if you live in Oklahoma, they'll be like, oh, fuck off. And then you're going to have people just travel across it. It will be like with the gambling and online gambling. In New York City, illegal. In New Jersey, it's legal to like play online poker. So I have buddies from my days as an underground poker dealer. I don't know how many people remember that was a job I did for 4 years. I have buddies who they moved actually from Queens, Brooklyn. They would move to Hoboken, Jersey City, just so they could play online poker legally. Because they used to grind out multi-tables, playing online poker. And then there was the Black Friday where they all got shut down. And when it got legal in New Jersey, they moved across state lines so they could do it there. I think what happens if you ban porn in many states, you're just going to see a lot of states with people moving out, or the motels on the state lines on the other side are going to get very pricey.
Exactly. And that's what I'm trying to... there's no one single person can prevent it, but I hope through doing research
you can't
on how
stop
these
it.
things...
Get your fucking cape on, Brian.
By doing research on these things, you at least have science to back up what you're saying.
You need to be the
savior of porn.
You need to be the deaf porno superhero role model for all the other young deaf kids who love porn out there, who grow up and need an idol. Get your fucking cape on.
I'll be Beethoven of porn.
Oh man, yeah, it's fucked up. I trust that after the midterms, everyone go vote. I don't know when this comes out, but if there's still time to vote, go vote.
56 days, 55 days.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I bank these far in advance. Like I had an episode come out in July that I recorded in January. So
there's a
delay on these. Please. Yeah, if you can't vote for 2018 midterms, vote the next thing you can vote for. Dog catcher is probably coming up, but I just I trust it. I think the porn industry right now. I mean, who the fuck am I to say? But I think getting people to pay for porn is more of my focus. Hotmovies.com/bonus code manwhore. I think that's more my focus than the legislative stuff until I see some people going, I just think that one's just so much easier to stop, because as soon as any congressperson or senator comes out and says we're introducing this anti-porn legislation, I'm sure the hackers will do our job for us and release all the porn that senator watches. Ted Cruz likes Corey Chase, and hey, so do I.
I mean, you two are united in your love for Corey Chase.
Still trying to get Corey Chase on this show.
Yes, and I mean, to be honest, if that's not true bipartisanship, then nothing is.
Bipartisanship? Yeah, I think we need, it's more important to get people to pay for the porn and keep it an industry that is alive and well.
Precisely.
I think, like I said, the legislative stuff will work itself out. I think hackers have a wonderful sense of justice, and I think they will be...
Yes, justice that they've elected the next president, the current president.
Wrong. I meant American. Okay. American hackers.
My point, though, is it's like a double-edged sword, and like you, different people are coming at it from different angles, and you're trying to get people to pay for their porn and keep the industry alive. And I'm trying to say we need to examine these myths we hold about porn, because if we don't, then the only people controlling the microphone are the Republican congressmen or the conservatives who are against porn.
Yo, we got microphones.
We do.
We do got microphones.
And as white men, that makes us very privileged.
Yeah. We better hold on to them just in case. I don't know. Oh, God. Yeah. You're very social justice-y.
I don't know if that's the term I'd use, but I guess
What's the term you like to use? See, I am social justice-y. I just don't like to admit it. But you're just like, I am. I just don't
just like you
word.
do not like to admit that you're a feminist.
I'm just saying I have integrity about my value systems, and if y'all call me a feminist, then God bless you.
All right. I think one of the things that I value about your show is that you're doing something that is worthwhile, and like sometimes, yes, it can dive into like, I don't know, porn or like funny things, but like you're trying to do something that is actually worthwhile, and you're putting yourself out there in a vulnerable way, and you're grappling with some of these issues. From listening to you when you first began 2011 to
14.
Okay. From listening from when you first began to now, from like how you developed over like accepting certain kinds of sexual identities and certain kinds of relationship identities is
demisexuals, go live your life, whatever. I don't care anymore. See, I can evolve.
As a demisexual, I'm very happy for you. I'm very happy you come around to us, into our camp.
It's not that I came around. No, and that was always my thing. I never said that's not a way people feel. I was just like, we don't need a word for it. It's just because I was like, whatever.
That's to be honest, that's the way I felt about it. Because when it was first explained to me, I was like, oh, well, it's people who need an emotional connection with somebody to be aroused. I'm like, isn't that normal to me?
Go to Iowa, and that is just the standard. It's like I don't know anything about Iowa. I don't know, but I'm just saying,
kind of a conservative
you go to
approach,
conservative areas. Yeah, that's just the standard.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I don't think there needs to be a word. But also, like, I don't give a fuck as much anymore. So it's like, go call yourselves what you want. Somebody wants me to call them a Piccadilly. Like, I think it's silly and dumb, but fine, go be the best Piccadilly fairy, whatever you can be.
Maybe not use that word, not with the historical issues.
A Piccadilly fairy? Don't tell me there isn't one. So if I go on Tumblr, I will find someone who says Piccadilly fairy.
Piccadilly has like slightly southern racist tones.
Oh no! Oh no! What did I just say? I thought I like half made something up.
I mean, I could be wrong, but
isn't there a Piccadilly circus in England, in London?
As far as yes, you're right. There is a Piccadilly Circus, but as far as I'm aware, it comes from historical connotation with black cotton pickers.
Oh shit!
But to be honest,
what have I said?
I could be completely wrong about that. I'm not an entomologist.
I have so many beeps I need to install. Oh fuck! I said it like 5 times. I feel.
I don't. It's not like obviously racist. It's not something like people would get like upset at you for.
Yeah.
But you just have to like certain words. I guess.
I feel like Elder Cunningham when he found out what Hasadiga Ibawai meant. He's like, I said it like 17 times. Oh no. Whatever, you know what I mean. But yeah. Oh, so you identify as demisexual?
I guess.
Exactly. Not needed. Just live your life, baby cakes. Whatever. But you prefer emotional connections before you bang out with people.
Yeah, definitely,
Okay.
for sure. I definitely prefer to have like an emotional connection with somebody, and that to me is more important than even like a physical connection. And that's partially because like not because I have a low sex drive. I would rather have high sex drive, but it's more like I'm such a giver that I want to be in a position where I'm making sure I'm satisfying my other partner, and to do that, I need an emotional connection with them.
I don't see that's the thing. I don't need an emotional connection to satisfy or want to satisfy. I either need to think they're really, really hot and not a fucking piece of shit. Which is not, sometimes you run into really hot people and you're like, oh my God, you're so vapid. This is such a turnoff. Being into something, when I talked to Luke Jackson, the male escort, one of the things I asked him was like, what happens when you have a client, and Luke Jackson, male escort for women, he said, I find something
that I find attractive.
Yeah, whether it is their eyes or their sense of humor, their smile, they've got great tits, or they have a very interesting viewpoint on this issue. He's like, I will find something to find attractive and then focus on that. So if I want to get like super service oriented, like, yeah, that's what I'm going to find. I'm going to be like, yeah, maybe this, that, and the other thing on her, but like, oh my God, I love her smile. Or, oh, she makes me laugh so hard. That will make someone more attracted to me.
That to me is like I really like that strategy, and I've employed that in the past, but to me, like, it's a lot of energy to like find something specific and focus on that, when I'd rather have like a deep emotional connection with somebody where I know like this is good for them, or I can have that open communication with them.
I mean, if I have to work really hard, then obviously like I don't really want to I don't want to bang them, and I don't. And it's interesting how there are things that work in the opposite way, where you are attracted until things come up.
They're a bad
kisser, or Trump supporter, or like at when I was at Desire, there was a woman who like she was blowing me, and at one point a guy came up behind her and started fucking her. I don't think he was wearing a condom, and I know it wasn't her person.
And then you get stuck in your head about like
I was like, okay, like I'm okay getting blown by you, but like I do not want to. Like later that night, she ended up at my suite. It was the first night at Desire. This is even after she compared me to her daughter, which was weird. Oh yeah. So like
real gender bender.
So I'm at the hot tub at Desire, and it's the late night. It's basically like it's so weird. There, I think I wrote it down on my other sheet. Kenzie says in the Desire episode, she said there is no such thing as time at Desire. Like there's no time schedule. You don't go, what time is it? It's pool time. Then it's hot tub time. Mm-hmm. Then it's like take a nap and go get dinner time. Then it's bar time, disco time / playroom time. Then you either go back to your room time or go to the hot tub again. And that's just how the schedule is.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. No one's ever really looking at the watch. They're just kind of like,
yeah,
where is everybody?
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm at the hot tub the second time around, late night, and I'm with this like little crew of people I've been chatting with, and I'm sitting on a ledge, and I was making out with this woman. This woman comes up to me and just says like, "You are just beautiful." Just straight up comes up to me, puts her hands on my cheek, says, "You are beautiful," and then kisses me. This is not a very like, may I do XYZ type of culture,
right.
which is, it's fine. But she starts making out with me, and then she starts blowing me. And then I come, great. And we're talking later in the hot tub. And I forget what I said. Oh, I think I was talking about like my body. I just made like, my usual self-deprecating remark. And she was trying to, obviously say like, no, you don't. And then she said, oh, you remind me of my daughter with the way you talk about. And I'm just like, ooh, not the sexiest comparison. Remind me of my daughter. Oh yeah, I definitely want to fuck you now. Now if she had said you remind me of my son, I was like, oh, we could work with this. And so later she ended up at my place, and she was like, I really want to fuck you. I was like, I don't know if I want to do that, but we can do X, Y, and Z. And the main one of the big reasons for it was because I started fucking this dude without a condom. It was a huge turnoff. Because if I don't I can take my own precautions by using a condom. Right. But at that point, like, I'm just like turned off that you exhibit such poor judgment. Mm-hmm. As Dan Savage says, poor judgment can be a turnoff.
Yes, absolutely can. That by kissing, like, poor judgment, probably even like the bigger turnoff in some senses. Mm-hmm.
And so you, one of your partners is an asexual person.
That's true. Yes.
How's that going?
It's actually been a strange experience for me. I'm a very, very sexual person, and I like to be a giver when it comes to a relationship. It's like going down on somebody, or like making sure they get off first and then getting myself off.
Like normally you're like, I'll spank you, I'll eat you out, and she's just like, yeah, just give me some anime.
Yeah, it's a kind of a complicated story that would take way too long to get into. But I've known her for 5 years through a friend, through Ask Historians. Her best friend and a good friend of mine is on Ask Historians, which is the world's largest academic history forum.
We get it. Everything you have is big.
It's so big. And I met her that way, and we just became friends, and we just happened to end up at the same grad school. So I started hanging out with her more, and we started flirting heavily, and I started like doing my usual like flirtation strategy, I guess.
You have a flirtation strategy?
I mean, doesn't everybody?
Is there a workflow? Do you have
doesn't everybody have like certain things they go to?
What are your things you go to?
I'm sorry. Things I go to, I kind of like to get to know them emotionally. I ask a lot of questions. I get to get a feeling for who they are as people, and that's what working on building that emotional connection. And we were at the bar, and she was touchy and cuddly, and I'm like, oh, this is going somewhere. And then another night we were both texting, and she was drunk, and she's like, I just have to say I'm asexual. And I'm like, oh, that's fine. I I don't care. It's not a big issue for me. But I guess she had come out to her best friend and it had not gone well at all. He had like had a really bad reaction, and he's like, no, you're not, you're this, because he had seen her hook up with other people in the past, so therefore she must be sexual.
And he's a man with an opinion, so it must be heard.
Yes, exactly. Very, very,
like,
very
you know
hurt
what? Like,
feeling.
if someone comes out to you as a thing and you disagree, you could just keep it to yourself.
He did not keep it to himself, and that really hurt her, and she was upset. But I was like, no, this is fine, and here's a couple books I read about it. Here's this great community I know that does it, and here's some like asexual memes just to like make you feel like a normal person. You're a normal person. You deserve to like be recognized for who you are. I'm just trying to be nice and supportive of her. And then
But you're a little bit trying to like get into her emotional pants.
Yes, I guess. And she was just a good friend. I cared about her. I wanted her to be happy and healthy, whatever she should choose or not to do or not do. And that's just kind of what I was going for. And then
did part of you, like, when you heard that, you like before there was like some like cuddliness at the bar or whatever, right? You said?
Yeah.
Okay. So normally one would go like, okay, cool, this is like going well.
Yeah.
Did you look back and be like, oh, she's asexual? She was cuddling me? Oh, I basically went to like third base with her in her mind. Like, I went to asexual third base. We cuddled so hard at that bar.
3.5 base, I guess, technically.
Hey, yo, did you hear about Brian and Amber? Yo, they cuddled in public.
So hard.
In public, in front of people. They're crazy. I only cuddle with the lights off.
It's very, very filthy. Filthy what they do in public these days.
So she comes out to you, send her some stuff, and then how's that develop?
And then she appreciated it, and I just kind of kept in communication with her because I was talking with her every day and hanging out like once a week or so. And then we just like started making out and then not really communicating what was going on. And I was like, okay, do we need to stop? Is this okay? And she's like, no, this is fine. I'm like, okay, I just want to say that consent is all clear here, which is very important to me. And then it just slowly, over week after week, at first we started making out, and then she does like kissing a lot. She likes hair pulling. Like, that's fun for her. It's not, but it's like the weird thing about dating an asexual person. Like, you start making out, kissing, going hot and heavy, and then like usually people start going further, but it's just not there for her. It's like a wall. It's like there's not any push further, and that was a weird thing for me.
Okay.
And then she went down on me, and she was like teasing me, and she was like, she was all fine with this. And like,
so she was doing things for you, not necessarily because she's turned on by it, but because she wants to do something for you.
Right. And that to me is really, it's a new position for me to be in.
Yeah. And that's a common misconception about asexuals. People go like, well, you're asexual, you don't fuck. It's like, no, like, asexual people fuck. It's they just don't experience the desire that makes them want to fuck. And someone can correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm often am.
There's like asexual and like aromantic asexual.
It's been a long time since that asexual episode I did.
Right.
But just the idea of like, they can, because like they're physically capable of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes they will choose to do that because they love their partner, but it doesn't mean that they get off on it.
Just like some monogamous people date poly people, or some poly people date monogamous people.
Yeah, look, we all make concessions in relationships. Billy usually just forgives the date of birth. You know, it's fine.
She cannot physically have sex because endometriosis. So like, that's fine. Like, I'm tend to be very focused on their pleasure first.
How old is this person?
She is 25.
Okay. I'm curious if the endometriosis had anything to do with like, is it I mean, again, I don't care. I'm not going to argue with her. I'm just curious if like, because I've heard about people who thought they were asexual and they identified that way until maybe they realized where their desires were. Maybe they were kinky. Maybe it was this. Maybe they just didn't meet the right person. Maybe they experienced trauma. Not that.
And yes, probably. Yeah.
And so sometimes that does happen, and that's okay, and that's fine. It doesn't make things less valid. Doesn't make sexuality not
valid. And we
valid.
tried some things to be like, oh, well let's try this. I'll try going down.
I'm just curious if the endometriosis had anything to do with maybe like the lack of desire around sex, because like maybe it was tied to the concept of pain.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure it was definitely a contributor.
And then it's like, was there sexual desires until desire was attached to pain? Oh, just think about. Doesn't affect my life. I don't care. It's fine.
Right. So like that's just a really to me that's just like a really interesting thing, because normally I'd be like, oh, I'll just go down on you. I'd like to pleasure you.
Right.
First.
That's the go-to. That's just like the default, right? Like us do. You know, I think the more sexually evolved dudes of us. That's just like go-to. It's like, at some point I'm going to eat her pussy. And then when you take that move away, it's like, I don't know what to do.
I'm floundering in the sea.
You're just gonna blow me. Okay. I'll get comfortable with this.
Yes. So that's kind of what's happening right now, and it's been interesting because it's like you're having like this really strong emotional connection. Like the NREs, like the new relationship energy is going so strong, and like you have that great, but like you don't have that as much of a drive to be with them and hook up with them constantly. It's much more of like a logical, emotional thing, I think.
Mm-hmm. And so how long y'all been dating?
Probably 3 months. A month now, yeah.
Oh, so this is fresh.
It's fresh, very fresh.
Oh, okay.
Very fresh, very new.
Okay, we'll check. I'll check in before I put this episode out and see how it's still going.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine either way. Like I asked her before I like talked about anything.
Sure. Or I just meant more like I'm gonna be curious where things have evolved.
Oh yes, I see. Yeah, so both my relationships. I had a relationship of 3.5 years, and that just ended, and I just have two
pretty
very,
messy.
very new relationships.
I've heard.
Yes, very, very, very badly.
My level of messy, or like a little shy of that.
Way over that.
Worse than mine, like worse than trying to ruin your career *2.
There was some of that, and then there was like suicide ward stuff. So like it like doubled down bad on her side too.
Well, mine had that, kind of. I probably shouldn't talk about that, but you can.
I'll talk about it a little bit. It was like a very long-term relationship. She planned to move out to Indiana with me, where I just went for my second graduate program, but
Nerd.
I'm sorry, I just can't stop collecting degrees. It's like Pokemon. Just gotta catch them all. And then it ended really badly. It's like a bunch of things happened, and then I realized she'd been lying to me about like important financial stuff, and like
was she gambling your money away?
She was like lying about like the financial situation she'd ended up in. Like my parents had helped her out, and I'd helped her out. So like it was a really bad financial situation.
I do not like mixing money with sex and love. Oh my.
Yeah.
Like I had to insist my XP take. Like I lent my ex money a couple times. But like small amount, like I'll buy your sex party ticket and you pay me back whenever
right.
Look, if you're stressing out, here's $200. Like never enough that like, I'll put it this way. I think in sex and love, you should not lend more money than you are okay never seeing again.
Yes.
Like with a friendship, fuck you. Make sure you pay me back. Whatever. But like with someone you love.
Right.
And because I'm so, poor and things, I, the money, if I were to give a large amount, like that would cause strife. But like, yeah, like $100 or $200 here and there, like I could probably handle for someone super special and hope I get it back. But like, I'm not, that's not the reason I'm giving it. I'm giving it because I want to help this person.
And to me, same thing. Money can be like a real trigger issue for me, especially because just the way I was raised. Yeah. So like that was like a big relationship stressor, and it led to her lying about things about money, and that I ended the relationship.
Over the money?
No, over the lying, because I've before. Oh, did it die?
Don't. This is my fucking show.
I'm sorry, man.
You
I'm sorry.
relax.
I'm so used to podcast recording that I just have to take control.
Relax on my uncomfortable stool. Goddammit. Hang tight. How does being a porn historian, is that a way to accurately describe you, a porn historian? Or
I call myself a historian of the book who's interested in obscenity and pornography, but yeah,
that doesn't really fit on a business card.
I'm stuck
dude.
now because of Conan. I'm stuck now forever with porn historian.
I mean, you also have 140 characters in a Twitter bio, so you kind of gotta
his porn # his porn. That's
okay.
Me. That's all
we'll put it this way: even if you said you were an author or a historian, they'll be like, "Oh, what was your last book on porn?" So, porn historian until you have more books to say otherwise.
My next book's going to be on a similar topic, so I guess I'm just straight fucked.
Just get used to it, dude. But like, how's that factor into your dating, or does it not at all?
I think it factors in some of the things I've been talking about, like being very cautious about like studying news or being like the creepy dude. I'm very, very reluctant to like push boundaries. I'm very reluctant to like. I don't even know how to like start pickup lines.
No, I mean like, do women like do like the people you date have like you say like, hey, like what do you do for a living? Like, oh, I'm a porn historian, or however weird way you phrase it. Does that cause strife? Like, do people not want to date you because of that, or
I have it out on all.
Has it made it weird?
Right, I have it out on my dating bios and my OkCupid and Bumble and Tinder and everything like that, and I have it present just kind of like people around me know that, and I talk about it. I talk about like what I've done, and so usually by the time it gets to that point, they've either like agreed to it or haven't.
They've already
ruled it out.
unmatched you. Yeah.
Right.
And I have the same thing in mind. Like in my Bumble, it says I do a sex podcast. And if that's going to be a deal breaker for someone, we're not even going to end up in the talking phase. I find that so much more efficient than like
I think
having
so
the
too.
conversations and then I have to disclose the big scary thing, whether it's, being poly or having the sex podcast or being from New Jersey, like whatever it is.
So you must see like the match, and then like you can tell they went back and read the bio and unmatched.
Oh, when they instantly unmatch, I know exactly
Yeah,
why.
exact same
But
thing.
I think it's usually more because of the ethical non-monogamy, but
That's what I think too. And I guess I would double strike in the same way as you, porn historian and sex educator and non-monogamous.
sure. The other thing is, I asked you before when we started, I said, like, so what sexual orientation do you identify as? And you just made hand gestures. Yeah, really?
Yeah.
What's going on, dude?
Well, you just had an episode with the Kinsey scale mentioned, didn't you? So Kinsey
Probably.
scale, I guess Kinsey scale, I would say 2.
I broke it.
You did break it. I saw that. I didn't realize you could break the Kinsey scale.
A couple years later, I tried taking it again, still broke it. I'm just a very interesting person.
You're unique. You're a unique soul.
I'm a unique snowflake. Hey.
I would have pegged you as like a 1 or a 2.
Really?
Yeah.
If you're gonna peg me for something, you peg me for like what's the highest number on it?
Or peg you for marriage.
Yeah, but what's the highest
6
number? On
is
it?
exclusively
6 is exclusively gay.
homosexual.
I feel like if someone's trying to guess me, I think they think I'm a 4 or 5. I'm pretty. I mean, I just posted a picture of me crying on Instagram to Hamilton.
That's gender roles. That's not sexuality.
Yeah, and sadly, like dude bros who also wear tank tops conflate the two, and the women who bang those dude bros. They're all just like, oh, gay. And I'm like, what? Someone retweeted it, the picture, and it's with a funny caption, but they're all like, oh, clearly he likes dick. He's at a musical and he's crying during it. I don't know. I've been told I give off very feminine energy.
Right. And I'm a crier too, especially at movies or plays. Can't even help myself.
Yeah. I'm just shocked that you would have guessed I was like a 1 or 2 when I'm like, if you're guessing, I feel like people guess I'm a 0, right? Is that the exclusively straight one?
Yep.
People I feel like are guessing I'm a 0 or they're thinking like, oh, he definitely likes some dick.
No, I would. Peg
don't
you,
think
knowing your history, I would peg you like a 1, probably.
Knowing my history, sure, but I feel like I give off the
giving off. Yeah,
I feel like I give off the no dicks
or
or like I don't feel. I'll put it this way: I definitely don't give off a sometimes dick kind of personality. I feel like I give off of either none or like all the stuff.
And I'm give off the sometimes dick energy.
Okay.
I'm sure.
Interesting. So you think you're like a 1 or 2?
No, I would
Or
say
you're
I'm
a
definitely a 2.
Okay, so what's
I'm
that
interested
mean?
in men sexually, but I have a very complicated relationship with sexual assault in men. So like that's one at things, and then but like I'm attracted to men. And I do like hooking up with men, but I've never dated men, and like trying to like do Grindr is like fucking overwhelming, and I just can't even deal with that. Because like, have you ever? I'm sure you've never downloaded Grindr.
No,
drunk.
I've never downloaded
Grindr drunk. Well, I'll like get on Grindr like really drunk at a conference, be like, hey, I just want to hook up with somebody, and then like you'll get like 47 messages and like dick pics. It's like nonstop. It's way too overwhelming for me. So
did you suck a dick at ManwhoreCon?
I did.
I'll be.
I sucked a dick and ate a pussy at the same time. It was really fantastic.
Was our favorite the
No, it was.
Who'd you blow?
Carl.
Which dick did you suck?
Pretty sure.
Tell me.
Sure. I'm pretty sure it was. Although I bleep that one out if you can.
No, I'm beeping all names.
Okay. I'm pretty sure it was. But I was so drunk that at that point it was
We're at
pretty...
the end of the episode. I don't know who's still listening, so now I'm just gossiping.
So I ate Kenzie out and blew at the same time. And that was
that's
great.
fun.
Until Kenzie tried to come down and help me, and then she tripped, and then we all fell down.
Fucking nerds. Fun. Okay, so but the being into men or the accepting that you're into men, is that newer? I understand, or
No, I guess newer. 6 years newer.
oh, that's not new.
Yeah.
No. Okay, I thought that was something newer.
No. I guess trying to like make moves towards like pursuing it a little bit more. Maybe that's a little bit more newer, but that's just because I said like I download Grindr and it's like 47 dick pics.
Right, but wait, so you download, but do you only download Grindr when you're drunk?
Yes, usually when I'm blackout drunk at a conference.
Do you only hook up with dudes when you're drunk?
No.
Okay, that's good. I'm happy to hear
I had a really bad incident with one dude after my first girlfriend and I broke up, and then my second dude I ever hooked up with was like a micro penis, which was very disappointing.
And I feel like that doesn't. If it's the second dude, you're like, I showed up for the hooking up with men experience, and this is under delivering.
Yeah, but I was like, I just wanted to be a bottom too. It was not working out well for me. So I guess the man whore con experience was experience 3.
Really? Wait,
Yeah.
so being with men is newer. Maybe I should have phrased it that way.
Trying, making an effort to try to be with men.
What's the difference between making an effort and hooking up with men? But sexual assault aside from that.
I guess it's very easy to sleep with men. So if you wanted to go fuck a dude tonight, you can get laid real.
So you'll
fast.
go to like gay bars or something. You're talking. So you're saying pursuing men like on apps or something, or I'm just trying to get an idea of how man whore con is your third experience.
It's the same kind of thing with like a demisexual. Like I need to have an emotional connection with them. So like needing to have an emotional connection to be aroused, to like be into that.
So you've been with. This is probably the most straight I've ever sounded on this show. I'm just guessing. Someone tell me if I'm wrong. So wait, you've been with 3 men ever?
Yeah.
So it is newer.
How many women would you say I've been with?
I don't fucking
If you had to guess, throw out a number.
I have no
Throw out
fucking
a
idea.
number. Throw out a number.
No, I genuinely have no idea. I could never guess, and I don't know your relationship history. I do not have nearly enough variables to even ponder a guess.
Fair.
But if you're telling me you've been with 3 men, but you're insisting it's not new, that's why I'm just like...
My attraction to men is not new. And my realizing that I'm attracted.
Right, but you're hooking up with men is a newer thing. The physical part of it, right?
I guess like the last time I had an experience with men with a micro penis was 4 years ago.
Okay, I will put it this way. You are... Then I will change my wording, because we'll get away from chronological wording. You are inexperienced with men.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm inexperienced with men.
So 4 years ago was the last one, then man whore con, and now is this something you're going to try to pursue more? Or,
yeah, I guess.
Or
I don't
more
have
hand
much,
gestures of not knowing?
Yes, I don't have any time right now to pursue anything.
You got time for the
I have an asexual relationship, and that's wonderful, and that's great, but like that's very low energy. Most of the time, she just comes over and cuddle and we make out, and that's it. And that's great. That's what I need right now.
Okay.
And then I have a more emotional long distance relationship, and that's what's kind of the obviously. So neither of those are really big time suck.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'll find time eventually once I finish my paper in my next book. And
I hope you get to finish this paper so you can get fucked by all the dudes you want to get fucked by.
It's about a less average amount of less average amount of men than
Have you not
women.
been with a lot of women?
Probably under 20.
Under 20.
Probably
You're how old
around
again?
15. 15. How old am I?
Yeah.
I am like only a week or 2 older than you.
Right. 29. So
yeah.
Huh. What happened?
Nothing happened. My shortest relationship was 3 years.
Okay. So was that
1 year? I guess.
And some of them maybe monogamous.
I was monogamous up until grad school, which was right about when you started this podcast. Yeah.
Huh.
I was monogamous until then. Not
just the way you carried yourself at Man or Con and the orgy and just in general, because you hooked up with other people at the thing. So it's like, I got the sense that I was like, oh yeah, Brian's like a ladies dude in that like kind of nerdy poly way. You know the nerdy poly guys, right? I pegged you as one of those.
Yeah. I guess aspiring
man whore. Very fun, man. Very fun. And what is there anything else that you think I should know?
I don't know.
We didn't talk about Kenzie.
We didn't
too
talk
much,
about Kenzie, and
yeah,
she was really excited to listen to us talk about her for an hour.
Fuck that. She's had plenty of time on air. She's been on 3 different episodes at this point. She had her own bonus show.
She'll be very disappointed, but she just said she's excited to listen to us both, which is like, oh, Kenzie, I'm so touched. Really, she wants to hear about herself.
Yeah, it's like, what do you want? What do you just want to hear 2 dudes say like that they're into you to sit down?
I guess technically you're going to be interviewing Jace, which will be your second metamor of hers you've interviewed, right?
Yeah, that's not until I go to LA, and this will be out after I've been to LA.
Right.
So.
But like that would fast become, let's interview Kenzie's memoirs, Kenzie's past relationships.
She'll do her own spin-off show. Brian, thank you so much for chatting with me.
Thing.
Very much appreciated. I have one last question. It's very self-indulgent.
Okay, go for it.
Why are you a member of the fan whore community on Patreon?
I think because I don't think anybody would start off by saying you're perfect, but what you're doing here is important, and I think it's a valuable thing to see how people change and how they're willing to be emotionally vulnerable on a show like this to interview their exes, which is something I don't think I would ever be brave enough to do. So seeing that and knowing that hashtag you should pay for your content and your porn if you're a part of the Kick group, but seeing that and experiencing that and watching you go through this and having a lot of things, I guess, have a lot of things in the past that are similar to you, and having experienced some of the same things myself, and also because you also have a dash of like lots of intellectual people in this. So that's all kind of a combination of that, and I think it's important to support projects like this as a society.
All right. Thank you, man. Thank you. Now, where can people go find you on the internets, and where can they buy your book? What's the name of the book again? Your silly, very forced anal reference.
Annals, that's ANNALS.
Like, you didn't have to say annals. You didn't have
annals,
to.
Annals.
And I can't even say it right. Just like I used to say, I think, enamel pins.
Enamel?
Or is it enamel? I think I used to say enamel pins, but they're really enamel pins.
Okay, I think they're enamel pins too.
Yeah.
So it's annals and an ALS of pornography. That's not with a Y, with an IE in the French sense. How porn became bad. I am on Twitter at History of Porn. And you can also find me on the Ask Historian podcast, which is a podcast of the Ask Historian community on Reddit. And
little tip on finding Ask Historians. There's no space in between Ask and Historians, which caused me much strife.
Ask Historians
We're gonna have
one word.
We're going to have a talk about SEO after this.
Right. Ask Historians, one word, on Facebook and Twitter and on Reddit, because you cannot put spaces in between subreddits. Mm-hmm. But yes, it's the world's largest academic history forum. We interview famous historians, we interview people of the community, and we just kind of like talk very long form about history and in depth.
Okay. And you can always come find him in the Champagne Room or in the Peep Show on Patreon.
Right.
Patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. I am shameless, and don't worry, I hate me. Don't worry, I hate me too, everyone. Brian, thank you so much for chatting with me. And why don't you go ahead and say goodbye to everybody?
Goodbye, everybody. It was a pleasure.
Did you enjoy that one? I know I did. And if you did enjoy that one, we do have a bonus episode with Brian coming out tomorrow, which will be available to all of my $5 and up fan whores on Patreon. And if you want access to it, hey, you know how to get there. Go check out Brian and Kaytlin Bailey out on the internets. They're both doing great things. You can still find me on Twitter at @TheBillyProcida. Say hello, give me a little shout out, tag me and Brian and Kaytlin. Use the hashtag ManWhorePodcast, and you let us know what you thought of the show. Please go like the Man Whore Podcast Facebook page until Facebook removes me from there too for doing the ungodly act of talking about sex. Just search the Man Whore Podcast. I pop right up. And if you want to send me your comments, your questions, your booby pictures, whatever, send that over to manwhorepod@gmail.com. Love reading your emails. Oh, they're so much fun. It's a great way to start my day. Last reminder, final chance. At the end of today, December 19th, I'm going to be mailing out those hand-drawn, limited time only stickers drawn by the wonderful Rosa S. Candone. If you want a little, private Man Whore holiday surprise in your mailbox, become a member of my Patreon for at least $2 to get that sticker and a slew of other great rewards. Again, head on over to patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. That's Patreon, patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. Next week, I've got the hilarious Rachel Green. I'm very excited. I'm actually going to be talking with her tomorrow because I'm recording this on Tuesday. So I'm really excited for that one. It's probably going to be dope as fuck. So tune in next week for that. And until then, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and stay slutty.